Roster Mania has officially started, and the first move that I want to talk about is Magixx being benched off of Team Spirit, and of course being replaced by Zwei from Namiga. Now, at face value, this move doesn't look like it makes a ton of sense because Spirit was playing pretty decent up until this major, so you don't want to make any reactions because how can you replace anybody on this team? But I actually want to talk about a really big problem that Spirit has, and why I think that this might be the only way for them to go forward, and we'll get to that right after a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by SkinsMonkey. Now, if you're not familiar with SkinsMonkey, this is a trade site that allows you to take some of the old and crusty skins out of your inventory, and you can actually trade them in for something a little bit new, a little bit shinier than what you have right now. And it's really easy to do this, actually. All you need to do is log in through Steam, pick the skins that you don't want to use anymore, grab the ones that you do, and then click trade. All trades will pretty much happen immediately, and any balance that you don't use in your trade actually stays on the site for you to use for any future trades that you decide to do. And right now, if you use the link in the description, you can actually get a 35% deposit bonus, and that's good for up to $100. So let's say you deposit $100, you would actually get $135 on the site if you use my link. So make sure you check out SkinsMonkey, and let's hop right back into the video. So we're going to start by looking at this game that they played versus Mouse at the Austin Major. This will be, of course, Magixx's last game on the team, and even though he didn't actually perform that well in this best of 3, he had a 0.9 rating. I still don't actually think that that's all his fault, because most of the problems that Spirit have been having have been on the T sides, and I think that that's just because they're very reliant on Donk. This is somebody who is going to be holding W, trying to get the entries in a lot of these situations. Again, he will even be going alone, and we'll highlight that the more that the video goes on, but he is not even allowing anybody to go in front of him. He doesn't want to bait anyone. He wants to go take these duels. But the main problem is that if Donk doesn't get the opening, they don't really have a plan afterwards. And we can kind of look at this round for an example. So we have Donk going in towards underpass. Obviously, this is a slow default. The idea is we're trying to put a little bit of pressure in mid. That way the CTs have to make a choice. Are they going to fight for mid, or are they going to push the extremities? That being like pushing apartments to get information, pushing ramp or palace. This is typically how Mirage is played, right? Which is why we have the double lurks. We have one in palace, one in ramp. And the idea is really simple. Again, like I said, we're going to put pressure, and hopefully our lurks can either take advantage of chaos that's created in mid, or the lurks can catch people that are pushing in towards ramp trying to take map control. The problem is that what's the plan here? I mean, we already talked about the plan, but how are we going to make it happen? We end up just sitting in towards bottom mid, and we're, again, very reliant on Donk. We're just letting the clock tick away. We're not actually doing anything. We're holding this map control, and we're hoping and praying that Mouse give Donk a duel. That is quite literally the idea here. And eventually, Magixx is going to creep up, and he's going to get caught, and the reaction doesn't really come in here. We get a window smoke and a connector smoke, but we're not actually in position to do anything. We actually get caught again by Spinx going up cat, trying to get information. And the reason that he's even doing that is because they've heard nothing in mid this entire time. They call it a lurker. Magixx is sometimes somebody that goes on a lurk, so once you nameplate that, you know what's going on. And now we don't even know anything. We haven't heard any noise in mid. Are they there? Spinx walks up to look for info, and nobody was even holding that. So think about it. We're in mid waiting for a re-aggression or any kind of play to retake mid info from Mouse, and when they do it as a solo play, we're still getting caught off guard, and now the entire play is given up. Our lurker is coming back, but now he's going back to A because we don't know where to go. Zero is trying to go top mid with the bomb, and this is mostly a calling problem in my honest opinion. And that doesn't mean that one cherry-picked round is blaming Chopper for the calls, but I do think that it points to a big problem that Spirit has, which is that Donk is so good that they just rely on him to get the openings, because if he does, they will win the rounds, but if he doesn't, then this is the kind of stuff that happens. And this really is one of Spirit's biggest issues, is that they don't play their T sides together, and things are very disjointed. For example, we have a round where Zontix is going to get opt right away, and then Donk is smoked off. I think the plan was that they were creating a little bit of a B fake, trying to buy a lurk opportunity for either Zontix or Donk to get out. But the problem is that, again, we're relying on individuals to open the round, and now, what is the end goal? Well, Donk's going to go ahead and try to take a timing fight here, but once he goes 1-for-1, again, we are all split up. Magixx is in apps, walking up, now he's going back. And this is indecision, what you're seeing. I'm highlighting this because if he doesn't know what he's doing, then the rest of the team doesn't know. He's just, first instinct is to walk apps until Chopper calls him back. They just came back to T-spawn. Now they're all going to group up Palace. And it just seems like they don't know what they're going to do until a few seconds until after they should have already done the reaction. And so you get into a couple of really tight situations where you need individuals to bail you out, but if Donk is dead in the round, sometimes you just can't rely on that, which is where we need to talk about, is benching Magixx the right move? And to be honest, I do think that it's the only thing that you can do while keeping Spirit the same, because even though I think that Chopper's IGLing could use some work, to be honest, I don't think that restructuring the entire team in one move is actually that great, because it's going to be like replacing 3 or 4 players is what it's going to feel like. But if you want to replace one player, you can't obviously replace Shiro, you're not going to replace Donk, and Sontix actually is pretty sick. Like, he has a lot of standout games. One person who doesn't, though, is Magixx. He had one good series in the Grand Finals of Shanghai where they won the major. So since then, it's been a little shoddy. And I think that being able to replace one player that's going to be able to give you more depth on your T sides and allow you to win more tight series is going to be the best move, which is why I really like what Zwei is going to be able to bring to the team, because he plays the same roles on T side that Magixx does on Mirage. And just by looking at face value, you can see that this is a player who is going to be a little bit more comfortable taking those duels. Somebody who's not afraid to go, Donk, I'm going to follow you out and I'm going to trade you. So that Spirit gets the best of both worlds. You can still have Donk going crazy, but you have a backup plan. That being Zwei, who can follow him around, somebody who's a young aimer, who can, you know, again, just win rounds outright by himself, and it gives you a little bit more depth. And even in the defaults, because that's going to give you some more options instead of just sitting here ramp and praying for somebody to walk into you. Now, again, I'm not blaming Magixx for that specific round or any rounds like it, because that's something that Chopper had told him to do. So it's not actually his fault. And even after Magixx was benched, Donk came out and said that Magixx was the best teammate that he's ever played with, which I think is funny, because in a lot of these rounds at the major, Magixx actually just outright baits Donk. Look at this. Here's a round where Magixx was going first, but instead of just clearing the angle from a normal position, because it's the end of the round, we're ending the round A, instead of just coming out here, checking it, and then dying wherever and having Donk trade you, no, we actually came here because Donk should go first, right? And Donk should go first, that way he can die, then I can try to trade him and die to the person Cat because Shiro wasn't able to get him in time. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. How is it that we're just going to allow Donk to go first in a round? It doesn't really make sense for him to do that. But don't even get me started on the actual strat in this round, because what we did was we had Chopper get boosted window, and the plan here is pretty simple. We're going to contact in towards A, and Chopper is going to go through window whenever his teammates make contact or towards top connector, so the Exertion has to either choose connector or window, and either way he should die. But that's the problem. What's going on here? Look at this exec. There's no utility being thrown. We have no flashes being used, no mollies being used, no smokes on the field. And even though Chopper gets his kill, the problem is where do you even go next? You lost Donk. You sent your teammates into a meat grinder because you didn't have any nades. But it's not their fault they didn't have any nades, right? No, wrong. They used their last window smoke on window. They used their last smoke on window. It doesn't actually make any sense. Why would they do that? Shouldn't they have just smoked off anything else that was going to be useful? They were already connector. This smoke doesn't even help them. All it helps is Chopper get his. It just helps Chopper get his kill. It doesn't help the team win the round. That's the problem. They need to plan ahead better on how to use their utility to end the round. They're too reliant on, you know what, this will work because Donk will come up and get the first kill. This guy jungle will be forced to look away, and then I get the kill. You can't just rely on that, even though he's the best rifler in the world. Now here's another round that really bothers me from a calling perspective, because we have a normal default. We have the top mid smoke, window smoke thrown. We have our lurkers set. Shiro is going to be lurking with the op, trying to get a kill. That's all normal. Donk is coming in towards lower by himself again, and Chopper and Magixx are top mid. Now Magixx is throwing these flashes. That way, again, we talked about these in a simple demo review. If anybody wanted to peek with the top mid smoke, they could, and just kind of clear out this area. Donk is an underpass. He sees that it's smoked. And what does that tell us? That tells us that we're probably having somebody playing to fight mid. We know that they could be in towards underpass, playing in those annoying angles that Exertion always plays in. So we need to take our time here and wait for Donk to not be smoked off. So what do? Chopper knows that the timer is coming. He sees the top mid smoke just got blown. Window smoke is going to be gone too because it's gone. So he just peeks. He just peeks. Donk is still smoked off. Maybe he says Donk is going to go through the smoke. He just peeks. He spots this guy going in towards connector. Again, I don't hate this. But what I hate is the fact that, again, Chopper went out with no utility, no actual plan, and you're praying that Magixx is going to be able to trade him. By some miracle, he does. And then after that, Donk walks through a smoke to try to win the round, but because it's Donk, he actually does. This is not a calling masterclass. This is actually a disaster class. And I'm not even trying to be mean. I'm not even trying to just sit back and, well, I would have done better. No, I wouldn't have done better. But my point is still, what is happening? You just contacted in towards mid. You got lucky that nobody was expecting you to do that. And you had to rely on Donk to come out underpass to get 2. Magixx got a actual miracle trade. And now you're in a 4v2. How did you do that? Could you do that again? No, you couldn't do that again. And that's the reason why they ended up losing the series. That's the reason why I'm saying that their T sides need some work. Now, some people in the comments are going to defend Chopper and say, well, he knows he has the best rifler in the world, so he can call like it. And I get that. But no other team does that. They don't just go, I have one of the best players in the world, so I'm just going to do the bare minimum and expect the maximum results. It doesn't make any sense. Why don't we call more dynamic strats like the one that you're looking at here? Why don't we call more of these? Why don't we call more defaults to have micro plays so that way Donk can guaranteed get the kill instead of, well, he probably can. Well, either way, do you remember that round earlier that we looked at by Zwei? Well, this is actually the same strat that Nemiga was running, where Zwei was in Palace, and look at what we have here. We have the same strat where Magixx is in Palace. The problem is that they get 2 very different results, because when Magixx comes out, he does not get the opening. Neither did Zwei, but there was nobody there. Donk is coming out first. He gets his kill. Now Zontix needs to trade Magixx. He does, but then he gets spammed by Xerxin, who came through the lurk smoke. And then Chopper also will get spammed by Xerxin. This is just unlucky, to be honest. And after that, you're reliant on Donk to try to win the round for you, but the smokes fade because they took too long to get out. So yeah, and Donk will go down as well. This is something that did not happen when Nemiga ran the strat. It actually didn't happen when they ran the strat to the point where Zwei was able to get the CT without any issue. So what took so long? Well, I don't really know, to be honest, but maybe that was something that they called. They took too long to get into position. Maybe they just haven't been playing enough games to where everybody was stiff and didn't know what to do. And now look, I'm not making this video just trying to blame Chopper for the calling being bad, because the reality is that IGLing is really hard, and a lot of the time you're going to make the wrong call, and sometimes you're going to make some really good calls. My problem is that their T sides are very clearly where they struggle the most, and typically, I think it's just because they're relying on Donk way too often, and they don't get a lot of the key trades that they need to get, and they don't get openings if it's not Donk going for the kill. So here's another round where they go for a cat split. Magixx throws this molly. It doesn't actually hit jail like I think he wanted it to, and he's going to be coming up, and to the point where he doesn't even see this guy to get the trade. But this would have been a key trade if he was actually able to get it, and then they're going to go into another overtime. Now, obviously, Spirit go on to win this map and then get eliminated in the rest of the best of 3. But in general, I do think that this is very obviously the only way for Spirit to actually be able to improve their team, which is to replace Magixx and hope that Zwei is going to give them a few more options on their T sides, be able to play those anchor roles that he already plays on CT side, and hopefully it just makes them better. And again, I don't think that Magixx is a bad player. I think that he could easily go to another top 10 team and immediately make them better, but I think that his time on Spirit was kind of just unfortunate after Shanghai, and that's really all there is to it. So I'm excited to see how Zwei does once he gets on Spirit. I'm really excited to see where Magixx goes. I hope he keeps going on and trying to play. And in general, was Team Spirit's failure at the Austin Major Magixx's fault? I don't think so. That's my honest opinion, but you can let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And if you guys want to see more roster mania demo breakdowns and discussions on what's going on, JL video coming next, make sure you guys like this video, subscribe to the channel so you can see more as they come, and I'll see you guys very, very soon. Much love as always.